call the regular Charles City Board of Education meeting to order and have roll call, please.
Dyke.
Present.
Walker.
Here.
Frisbee.
Present.
Maycumber. Here. Winnering. Here.
All present and accounted for. Agenda item 1 is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections, Dr. Cox?
We can eliminate number 8 tonight, the reduction in force. We got our allocation for Title I, so this one would be unnecessary.
Awesome.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve as
I will make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
corrected?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the elimination of agenda item 8. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have roll call vote, please.
Maycumber. Yes. Winnering.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Frisbee.
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 2 is to welcome the visitors for public comment. As we begin our agenda tonight, I'll explain our process for public comment. The board will hear comments from the public in conjunction with each agenda item using a structured process. As board president, I will ask for comments when we reach that item on the agenda. You will be asked to approach the microphone, state your name, and limit your comments to 2 minutes. At this time, I invite any member of the audience to step up to the microphone with comments about items of interest or concern that do not appear on tonight's agenda. Please begin by stating your name and contact information. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 2 minutes so that we can keep the meeting moving in a timely fashion and allow others an opportunity to speak, as well as allowing the board to complete the full board agenda in a timely manner. Comments from the public are limited to matters within the board's authority. Please understand that we as a board cannot discuss items not already on the agenda. Iowa's Sunshine Law prohibits us from having a discussion without the proper notice to all of the school district community that the issue would be discussed at tonight's board meeting. Also, please remember you are making comments in a public meeting. Should you make comments that the subject of the comments considers to be inflammatory or libelous, you as an individual may be subject to legal action brought by the subject of your comments. Thank you for your support of our community school district. And are there any comments from the public this evening?
Thank you, Scott. Doug Lindeman, Charles City. I just have 2 points, basically. Did I turn it off? There we go. I'll have just 2 points tonight for you. First of all, I had an opportunity to review some of the numbers that you used to come up with the $750,000 that we're allocating from sales costs for annual expenditures. We've noted in the past that you threw out costs. I think the throwing out of those capital items skews the number significantly. We're telling the world that for the next 15 years, we're not going to make any new large capital improvements to our school system. I wouldn't want to buy into a business where we've agreed we're not going to make any improvements for 15 years. I think it's a poor assumption. Throwing those numbers back in, you're up to about 1.3 million of expense. Add on the new building of another 1.3 million, you're at 2.6 million of operating. I think you're going to be too high in your expenses, too low in your sales tax. I would suggest that if you want to have a less divisive vote in 30 days, that you put off the approval of contracts coming up on Wednesday. Wait 30 days until we know if the public is really approving what you're doing with regard to your building, with regard to your funding, and if that's going to be a problem in the future. We could have maybe added 1 or 2 or 3 classes coming up here to the high school. We could have taken the funding, partially sales tax, partially coming from the referendum. There are other choices. I would encourage you not to approve the contracts for Wednesday, but to put it off 30 days until after the election. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindeman, for your comments. Are there any other comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll go back to the table and agenda item 3, comments by board members and superintendent, and we'll start with Dr. Cox.
We have 6 candidates running for 3 seats on the school board. I've been contacted by reporters from the Waterloo Courier, Des Moines Register, as well as KIMT about our election. I want to remind everyone the election is 4 weeks from tomorrow on September the 8th. The advisory task force that FEH Design is facilitating has had 2 meetings and have gone really well so far. I want to remind and encourage students, parents, staff, community members, come out this Wednesday and Thursday, August 12th and 13th. Anytime during the day, they're going to be doing a day-long design process, a charrette, and they'd like to get your input, and we want and need your input. This is on facilities for the city, the school district, the county, and the YMCA. There are also evening meetings both nights, August 12th and August 13th at 5:30 p.m. All of this is open to the public, so please stop by the NIAC Center is where the activity will be taking place, the large room at the NIAC Center. Registration for the 2015-16 school year is this Friday and next Monday. And then finally, another piece of good news about the Iowa Association of School Boards convention that we're attending this fall. Our second presentation for the fall convention was accepted. So we will be doing a presentation along with BLDD, our architects, about our 21st century school design. So we're really excited about that, and that will be in mid-November.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll go next and say that for the next regular board meeting that we have, I would like on the agenda an item to review the history of why Charles City schools are peanut-free, and potentially I would like to have up for consideration that we be allowed to have peanuts at outdoor events, and items with peanuts, such as at Sportsman's Park and at Comet Field. So if you could do some research and have that on the agenda, I'd appreciate it.
All right.
I'm personally going to take up the charge to try and have peanuts at least at outside events. But that will be up to whatever information you present, I guess.
Okay.
Also, from my perspective, Mr. Lindeman had requested to be on the agenda this evening to talk about the funding for our new facility, and that request was denied based upon the belief that we weren't going to allow Monday morning quarterbacking of a Sunday night football game 3 years later in the process. The funding for this building has been extensively researched and discussed, not only by this board, but by the previous board. So for the last 3 to 4 years, that entire process has been well vetted, and the superintendent and I chose not to further that discussion. Are there any other comments by the board members?
Yeah, I have some comments. In the past year or so, I think it's been readily apparent, we've seen a lot of good publicity through a number of media outlets, across North Iowa about our school district. A lot of really good educational things, facilities things. That, good publicity like that is stuff that you really can't buy. It's something that goes a long ways with everybody that sees it, and that's great. Unfortunately, in the last week or so, virtually every major news outlet in the state has run a what I would call an incredibly embarrassing headline for our district. I think that's quite unfortunate, and I'm not sure where we go from there, but that's just something that I felt was unfortunate for us to have to endure after coming so far with the things that we've seen in the last year or so. With that, I commend the Globe-Gazette on them taking a stance and standing up for Charles City and our residents and our community, because I felt that what they wrote was spot on. So, with that, I hope we can continue to see that go on.
Any other comments by board members?
I got one more thing, if you can.
Go ahead.
Okay.
But finally, I guess the other thing was that with the Charles City Press, I also wanted to commend them on last Thursday's editorial that they took the opportunity to fact check and provide the truth and facts for all of the statements that were made in that editorial. I commend Dr. Cox for providing that information because as we go forward, many statements will be made, many statements will be heard throughout the community, and something that may sound simple or may sound as the next best thing might be something that we're likely already providing in our district. I encourage the district to continue to make sure that those facts are distributed fairly and equitably, just as they were last Thursday. And if there's questions, please refer to that, because I thought that was well done. So, thank you.
Thank you also from me.
Robin?
I just wanted to say thank you to Washington Principal Kara Shannon.
Thank you.
I don't know. We had fun with stop in and open the door and walk in and take a look
I
at
saw it.
the
It looks fantastic.
fun wall we did at in the offices. She had a great idea and 6 shades of our orange we come up with and did a great ombre wall. So thank you very much. Today in Hy-Vee, I was approached by 2 individuals and that had been to some of the meetings with the community and organization looking at facilities and that, and they asked me to explain what the signs to keep the middle school meant. And I looked at them and I had to tell them, I don't know. Having been a candidate that was endorsed by that, I don't understand the need to keep a building that could be well used for a number of different things, why it has to be kept as a school. And told them that we've come very far, we've looked at many things. I spent, when looking through my notes, I came to realize that I've spent 24 months on the board, and I spent the first 12 months of that 24 months looking for a different location for that middle school. So I spent a lot of hours and a lot of time and a year of my life trying to find another solution, and the solution is what's going on back here. And also when looking, I realized that there's been 10 board members, 8 elected board members that have come to the same conclusion as the board that sits here today. 2 appointed, 8 elected. And I feel more strongly and more confident 24 months later, knowing that Charles City is doing an outstanding job of what needs to be done for our school system.
Thank you.
Well said. You know, and I also don't understand what that means, keep it a school, keep the middle school a school. But let's just pretend that we are going to keep that school a school. And let's go back in history and understand, you know, why we didn't keep that school a school and why we're moving away from it. And it goes back to, you know, boards that came before us that wanted to look at what would it cost to update the HVAC. You know, it's the original boiler in that building. And the cost to remodel that building came up to, well, just the HVAC was $10 million. So that board had said, well, if it's $10 million, then how much more does it take to remodel the whole building? Well, we know that answer, it's $20 million. So then at that point, you know, is this really the school that we need for our kids? Is this the school that we need for our kids that need to be educated not only today but into the future for the jobs that we don't even know really what they will be because technology is just taking off for them? And so, and looking at what that school is and the size of our population, plus the future that we can expect here for our district, we learned, you know, through the help of Estes, that the cost savings per year to keep that school a school as it is over $300,000. That's the operational savings by going to a newer school, by going to a school that is sized for our population. You know, it's about half the size of the school that we are building. But the school that we are building is flexible. It's built for collaboration. It's built for, it's built and designed with the students and the teachers in mind for collaboration and communication and flexibility. And, you know, it's something I think that each of us are very proud of. And so there's a whole lot of reasons that the existing school should not be maintained as a school. Now, there's a whole lot of other good uses for it, and that's what this task force committee has been about. And I think that there's a lot of folks, I think the last meeting we had about 56 people, if I recall, and a lot of good ideas. And so I would encourage the public to come out and take part in that, because the public will help shape what this will become, and then it will come to the respective boards to make some decisions. But you know, it could be great as loft apartments, or you know, civic buildings or community centers. There's been so many different ideas, but as a school, no, I think its days are over. You know, unless we can do something, as you've been working on, Dr. Cox, and that is, you know, something that could be a vocational type of school that is a joint venue with some other entities there. But again, we don't need 150,000 square feet for that, maybe just a portion of it. So,
I would offer one
yes.
correction. It's closer to 25 million. I know you said 20 million to
Oh,
totally do the
20
school. It
25.
actually-
Well,
Because we
that's
had
right, we
25.
updated those
Newman
numbers.
Monson came in and looked at the facility, you know, was
Updated the number.
25 million.
Yeah, a little bit less, but
And if we
right there.
were
yeah.
looking at those numbers again today, it's probably even more,
Right.
yeah.
Jim, you have any comments this evening?
Well, I just got a couple comments, and one of them is, because my biggest comment tonight is that I don't think it's necessary that we run a campaign at the board meeting. And that's basically what we've heard so far is campaign, and we don't, this is not for a campaign, this is for our board meeting, not campaign ceremony. If you want a campaign, get to the press and tell them your side of the story. I don't need to do that at a board meeting, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Agenda
And
item,
It feels campaigning, but it feels factual.
Well, it's factual,
the
but it's
facts.
still.
Some others that it,
still
here are just some
campaign.
facts.
Yep, that's right.
But
Yeah.
I understand it could feel
Yep, it could. I mean,
differently to each of the five.
Yep, I understand, and I have no objection to what was said, I just don't think that it should be, this should be the place for a campaign discussion.
thank you. Agenda item 4, middle school construction update. We have Scott Scheller here, who's been waiting patiently through our previous workshop that we held.
Is it on?
Sure.
My update this week is quicker and shorter than before, and less complicated and more positive. We did get the remaining bids in for all of the rest of the construction last week, and that process was a long one. You all know through previous updates about some of the things that were up and down budget-wise, those things, but at the end of the day, all the bids are in. The results of that bidding were successful. The total cost of the project is in budget, and we are about halfway through the interviews we conduct with the successful bidders, just to ensure that there was no errors in their bids, no issues that might be a concern for us in the future. So far, that process has gone very well. We expect to complete it very quickly. And from a progress standpoint, if you look out the window, things have changed a great deal in the last 2 to 3 weeks. If the weather holds this week, which it appears that it will, we may have all of the earthwork done for all 3 of the buildings to prepare them for foundations. We have started the foundations out back. We expect we'll begin to pour concrete this week, and I believe we're off to a great start.
How many loads of dirt have you hauled now?
You know,
I had to laugh, because the reason I'm asking, I just had to laugh because you said last time we had the majority of the dirt hauling done. Now they put on 2 more trucks and it's been 2 weeks later and they're still hauling.
yeah, we had, at that meeting, we had all of the stripping done and we had all the buildings cleaned out to begin bringing back fill. Little funny anecdote, I got an email from Tim Fox at the Economic Development asking me how much more we were gonna be taking.
Really?
And I
went
told
out
him we
there and
really,
looked.
I told him we really were very close to finishing up with the borrow from that location. So I think he was actually a little bit relieved, but.
I went out and looked and it don't look like you hardly made a dent in it compared to what.
Well, yeah, when
what
you,
we've hauled up.
if you started out there at the beginning of the project,
Yeah.
you'd notice it. When the project started, that pile was just inside the gate
Yeah.
from the road. Now it's still an enormous pile, but the end of it has moved back quite substantially.
Have you found, there was some comments earlier on in the process that this was a swamp up here. How are you finding the soil?
Well, I don't know how exactly to respond to that because I'm sure some of those comments were editorial, but the low end of this site is where the site drains to. Part of the results of this construction, though, in that area is a retention area that will prevent a 6-inch rain from leaving this site in the same half hour that it fell and ended up all of it in the neighboring neighborhoods. There's an area down there that'll allow that water to build up and then find its way out slowly instead of let it flood. The low end of the site is damp when we get a significant rain, but the buildings are going to be substantially elevated from that area. The parking lot will be substantially elevated from that area, and so I really don't expect that it'll be what people characterize as a swamp as time goes on.
Did you have bids from more than one contractor for the same category?
In the current bids,
Yeah.
we had, I'm glad you asked that question. It was a lot of work on our end, and everybody's end, not just us, but we solicited somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,100 contractors, subcontractors, and vendors for bids on the project.
Okay.
And we did receive multiple bids in every category. I think the worst category we had 3, if I recall. And in the biggest categories where the biggest money was, mechanical, electrical, I think we either had 5 or 6 for each of the mechanical and electrical categories. So we really did have good representation, and if you look at how those numbers came in from high to low, the difference is substantial. It really is substantial. The difference between the low bid and the high bid in a single category, in a couple of cases, was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And
That's good.
We'll have that information for Thursday's
You will.
special meeting, correct?
Well, yep.
Scott, one other question. As students come back to school, can you remind us again, what kind of precautions that you take as far as safety and keeping them out of construction and?
Well, we're going to be looking at that here this coming week, but as the students come back, there won't be, you'll notice we have a trailer set up on the south end along the entry road, right near where you turn in to go to the maintenance office. And so we will have somebody in that trailer most of the time during the day to be able to see people coming and going. Our bid documents have completely prohibited access to the construction site from the south. So unless there's an error by a delivery person or something like that, there won't be any trucks coming through that south lot unless we've talked with Jerry, it's an off time, it's a Saturday or something special. On the north end, basically the north entrance to this building will be off limits. We'll be securing that and the whole north boundary here, except in like, again, special circumstances, we all have different needs. The school might need to have some time when somebody or something needs to be able to enter through the north entrance. Estes will make provisions to help you out with that, but it will not be an access point anymore. And from a construction standpoint, something we do that most people don't realize is everyone on the construction site, including me, if I'm on the site, is wearing a bright yellow or a bright orange vest or shirt or something. We call it high visibility. What that does for us is two things. One, it allows the patrons of the school and the staff and everybody to know if someone is a construction person. If you see someone in the hall with a bright orange t-shirt, they maybe shouldn't be in the hall. From our standpoint, it allows us from a very long ways away to see anybody that's on the construction site that is not a construction person. And so everyone that will be working out there will have specific instructions. If they see somebody out there without high visibility clothing, they'll approach them and ask them to get off the site and walk them out. If they need to be there, if it's somebody from the press or one of you guys want to take a tour, we have safety equipment. We have a whole box of hard hats. We'll hold hands or walk with whoever wants to go, wherever you want to go, to ensure that you're safe while on the site.
Very good.
Very good. Sounds great.
Couple of things I was questioning is when do they start drilling the wells for the geothermal?
The geothermal contractor should be on site this week.
Okay.
His materials are on site already. We've held him off a little bit because we were making such good progress with the earthwork that we just didn't want him to be a distraction. But he should be on site this week. And he should be finished with the well field by the end of September. Once that's done, basically, all the rest of the work that relates to geothermal will be inside the buildings.
Now, does McGinnis, that's a question I probably could find someplace, but is McGinnis doing the erection of the dirt work for the street, for the
They are.
extension of First Avenue?
They are.
Okay.
And that'll be starting in August. The First Avenue is supposed to run from August through October. It's the entire First Avenue project is supposed to be completed in October.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Scheller? See you Thursday at noon then.
Thank you all for your patience and your participation whenever you were asked. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Special meeting.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't find that on there. I'll be there.
Moving on to agenda item 5, agreement to establish consortium for joint administration of program. This is the continuation or what we tabled from 2 weeks ago for the Iowa School for the Deaf and Iowa Braille and Sight Saving School. We have that in our packet.
Yes, so our attorney had reviewed it, gone through and made suggestions. Their attorney had reviewed our suggestions. They've worked out the final draft. And this is to establish that consortium so that the Northeast Regional Academy can get started. They'll start hiring some staff because no school districts are interested in sending any students until there are teachers. It's tough for them to hire teachers without any students, but it's a chicken egg syndrome, and so they have said, we will go ahead, let's get the consortium started so that they can at least hire like one teacher, one interpreter, and get that ball rolling. They'll also be hiring a director this month in August, who will then be out working with superintendents, IEP teams, parents, telling them about here's how the academy will operate, here are the staff that will be in place, and then any school district who wants to send students here will be joining a consortium. It's the same process that we do with Cedar Falls Community Schools with the River Hills Consortium, which probably has 20 districts in it, I'm guessing.
Cool.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we,
No, I'm not doing public comment tonight. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement to establish a consortium for joint administration of programs.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve agenda item 5. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have roll call vote, please.
Wittering,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Frisbee,
Yes.
Maycumber,
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 6, legislative priorities for 2016. We engaged in a roughly 55-minute workshop prior to this meeting. Robin McCumber is our board person who has been appointed in the past to represent the district at the Iowa Association of School Boards Delegate Assembly in November. And I'll turn it over to you for a report and recommendation for priorities.
And I am going to turn it to Terry, who's going to read.
Who's, has the paperwork?
Yes.
Okay.
In an abbreviated version of each of the 4 legislative priorities, the first one was support setting the supplemental state aid at 6%. Number 2 was preserving the integrity of the state penny for school infrastructure. Number 3 was support allowing the bond issue to be passed by a simple majority. And 4, support continuation of incentives to encourage sharing and reorganization.
Satisfactory with everyone?
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the legislative priorities for 2016 as presented.
And I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2016 legislative priorities as has been presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have roll call vote, please.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wittering?
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 7, 2015-16 Employee Handbook. It's in our packet. Any questions of administration about the employee handbook?
I'll make a motion, we accept them as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2015-16 Employee Handbook as presented. Any further discussion?
Yes, hang on, I'm trying to find it. Here it is. Page 4. Dr. Cox and Terry, I wonder if you can look at page 4, where it talks about culture, climate, environment, and it talks about the graduation rate. Does that date need changed?
Yes.
Okay, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
uh-huh.
Okay, we have a typo for a date on page 4 that will be corrected. Anything else? Roll call vote, please.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wittering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 9, financial report for July of 2015. That would be Mrs. O'Brien.
We had 4 aluminum light poles donated by U.S. Bank. Our Buildings and Grounds Department went down and picked them up down in Cedar Rapids, and in discussion with Jerry, he's thinking they're either going to be used at the bus barn or the Washington parking lot. So it was a very nice donation they made. Also, we have an abbreviated financial report. You see the cash balances from prior year. And in October, when we have September year end, you'll get your first month of accrual for this year. So that's it.
Any questions for Mrs. O'Brien on the financial report?
Motion to approve the financial report for July 2015 as presented.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the financial report as presented. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Wienering,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Frisbee,
Yes,
Maycumber.
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 10, consideration of consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Roll call vote, please.
Walker.
Yes.
Frisbee,
yes,
Maycumber.
Yes.
Wienering,
Did you say my name? I couldn't hear. Yes.
Dyke.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 11, annual notice to parents. The following notice will be published in the minutes. The General Education Intervention, GEI, process is available to all students. This process is interactive and ongoing. It involves teams of individuals collaborating with one another to create academic behavioral intervention designed to meet the diverse needs of individual students. Members of the GEI teams include parents, educators, caregivers, administrators, AEA 267 support staff, and others who are knowledgeable about the educational needs of a student. The purpose of our GEI process is to identify and implement academic/behavioral intervention strategies that address individual student needs in general education classroom settings. The GEI process involves direct and frequent monitoring of student progress in the area of concern. It is also part of the assessment process that is used to determine whether or not a student needs to be considered for special education services. Evidently, there's some legal requirement of this, so we've taken care of that. Agenda item 12, important upcoming dates.
Thursday, noon, special meeting in the middle school cafeteria. And then the other important dates all relate to back to school. So registration, new teacher orientation day, first contract day for teachers, and the first day of school is Thursday, August the 27th.
Yeah.
And that would leave our next regular board meeting to be on September 14th, which
Correct.
will be a combination,
That's a-
old board and new board
That's a long
from
time
the
from
election.
Very good.
Having no other business to come before the board, we will adjourn at 7:09.